They had everything in Excel, and they didn't really go with some CRM systems wherein everything was done automatically by the system itself. So that was also one of the big drawbacks, where everything they had to do it manually. So if you have means like CRM systems, why don't we actually go and adopt those systems? So that could be really helpful and making their work also easier. And also they were not spending much on marketing because the business was very low. Marketing was absolutely zero, and there was no social media interaction at all. So if there is no social media interaction, if you're not spending on your marketing, how do you expect the students to actually come and inquire about your course and actually be interested? So that was also one of the big reasons or factors for not having enough leads. Next, coming to the competition. So now, as I said, another main factor, or one drawback which I really found, was there was, once a person comes to inquire, nobody is even bothered to call and ask why you came, why you did not come back for registering. So there was no follow up system, there was no feedback system in that particular organization. So that was a completely a turn off in a way, wherein if you're not following up with the student, how will the student come and actually join? He's obviously going to go for look for any other source. So that was a main disadvantage which I could really find out. And some other factors was budget constraints. So whatever funds they used to get from the main office, that was utilized for their own expenses. So, and everything, even for marketing and everything, they had to take permission from the head office. And all these things were some of the other factors which was actually bothering the entire workflow of the particular business. Next, coming to the actual results and findings. So, as I had mentioned earlier, Sulekha was actually providing very, if you can see even in the graph, the orange color line is Sulekha, which is really providing limited number of leads. And you can see in October, hardly four they have provided, and actually they've not even got converted. So this was the main and they were actually paying to Sulekha also on a yearly basis to actually have a contract with them. So that was one thing which was really not really fruitful in this particular case. But whereas the leads, whatever they were getting via walk-ins, that was pretty fine. But still, it was overall very less, because the conversion rate, if you can see, people coming in, and how many people are actually registering for your course. Hardly, if you can see, the highest is 23%, which is extremely low if you have to run a business. So the entire performance was extremely poor, and if you can see, even in the least was 9%. So this was completely disappointing, and there definitely something was wrong. Something had to be done to rectify this particular scenario. And then after, to rectify this, then again lead funnel analysis was done. So lead funnel analysis is basically nothing but, at each stage, like once the it's basically nothing but the journey of your candidate or your customer when he comes in, and how he's going to purchase the particular product. So that's the entire cycle. What are the steps that he goes through? So each steps have been divided in the form of a funnel. So first comes the leads. That means they come, they inquire, they show interest, and they inquire about the courses. After that, once they have shown some interest, then the inquiry is done. Now inquiry is done either through the phone calls, asking them which course are you preferring, and then asking them to come down and visiting the center. And then once they visit the center, counseling happens. Okay, counseling is basically a process wherein the entire details of your particular course has been explained, the fee structure, and then understanding the customer's requirement. All that is done in counseling phase. After that, if the candidate is interested in a demo session, even a demo session has been provided by the trainers, just to understand how the trainers teach and what is the quality of teaching, seeing the infrastructure of the particular institute. So all that was done, and then the last step is if he or she gets converted or not. So if you can see also, from leads, that means from leads to inquiry, 100 to 89. Definitely some inquiries might really not be interested, so this is justifiable, from 100 to 89. Then out of the 89, 82% who turn up, okay, that is also justifiable. Maybe some might not be interested, maybe the location might be far, so this is fine up till here. After that, 81% of them also necessarily they go for a demo session. But the most disheartening thing is, from 81, only 20% of them register. So that means Why this is the phase where one should understand ki why they are not getting converted. Either there could be a problem with the counseling, either there could be a problem with the demo session. So this is the part where the company had to really focus on.
Anjali, one more thing. Can
Yeah,
you be a bit quick because
yeah. I'm almost done. I mean, I just have two slides.
No, Abhishek, it is fine. I'm here. If you need to leave, you can leave.
no, no,
Uh,
no. Still, like you can't go beyond certain limit of time, na?
Yeah,
right.
okay. Give me only 5 minutes. I just have two more slides.
Yeah, no problem, Anjali. You can take your time. No problem.
Yeah. Okay, so as I had mentioned earlier, also, so this was somewhere that they had to really focus on. Okay, so last part was market competition. That is uh, um, the third problem statement, wherein SWOT analysis was performed. That is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So here also again I've marked the competitor's name. Basically, so competitor one is basically a very new competition that that's hardly 9 years old institute, and competition two is about say about 30 to 40 years. That is a pretty old institute. So for each and every institute I had gone personally, I had contacted them, seeing what were their strengths, weaknesses, all that I had understood, and this is just a chart which has been formulated. So the differences which I could found from my center and the particular competition is that some positives from the center which I was dealing with, they had very good brand reputation. The quality was extremely good. These were some of the strengths, and they also had tie-ups with Skill India and NSDC, and they had one differentiator was that they had a student app. That is, everything was online. That is, even the books, they had e-books, e-certificates, some lectures were online. So all this, within a click, the students could really access. The other institutes, everything was hard copy, so that was a bit of a disadvantage when compared to the institute which I was handling. And also the certificate is globally recognized with this particular institute. So these were some of the strengths. Coming to the weakness part was the EMI. There was no EMI system in this particular institute because the owner had faced some bad experiences previously. So he had completely stopped the EMI system. So that was a very big drawback, wherein every student had to pay installments, meaning they didn't have installments, one shot payment was given. Whereas the other institute, that is the competitors, they had flexible options of EMI. So obviously students would definitely prefer that particular option. And also another disadvantage was the other two competitions, they apart from civil mechanical, they also had IT related courses. So they had a big band of courses that they were actually offering. So obviously they had expanded their business, whereas here they are sticking only with civil and mechanical. So they have to also offer other courses as well. And also they need to increase their organization. Just doing, with three people managing the entire thing is not going to really help. So that if more people are there, the work also gets divided much more easily, and then they can focus more on taking follow-ups and feedbacks of students. And then coming to the opportunities, there are vast number of opportunities in this particular sector, that you can go for online training programs, you can provide internship programs, you can have corporate training, soft skill training. So all these are some of the opportunities which these people can actually tap onto. Coming to the threats, yes, definitely competition is going to be there everywhere. How you're going to differentiate yourself in this particular case? The one, brand reputation and the student app, and also they have placement facilities also. So that could be a big differentiator also. So that could be potential threats. Coming to the revenue, the last part, that is the revenue that they had generated. So this is just a small chart which I had come up with, the kind of revenue that they were actually generating. So the maximum number of revenue that they generated was in the month of August, and then the least was in the month of June. So the reason why this could happen is basically because, see, in June and December months you have the SEM exams of students. So students might not really be interested in coming and registering for any particular course at that particular time. So the reason for low revenue could be that. And coming to October, why it's extremely low? Because of the festive season. So because of that, also students might not really be interested in doing the course. So these were some of the last part is coming to the recommendations. So now something which I really found out was three things. One, something that they should completely stop. That is rigid EMI options. Everybody really cannot pay the huge amount in one shot. So they need to have little, flexible EMI options. And then Sulekha lead channel should be completely, disconnected, because the leads that they were getting were completely of no use. And then coming to what they should continue doing is, they should continue giving discounts based on their customers, and differential pricing should be done for different candidates. And what they should start doing, so as I had mentioned earlier, the inquiry form had missed a lot of details which they can actually collect about the particular customer. So one thing was changes in the inquiry form. One good thing is, this particular suggestion of mine they had immediately taken. So they had changed the inquiry form, and then with the new inquiry form, new data was being collected. Second, follow-ups and feedback should be taken. They should increase their organization, and also switching to another lead channels, and addition of IT courses, and they need to be a little more active on social media. So these were some of the findings and recommendations given by me, and some of them they had already started during the project phase itself. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't bore you all.
Yeah, it was a good presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. If there are any questions, I'm ready to take them.
Questions, what we can do, we can take at the last, like from the student side. Okay, so we'll wind up the this thing first.
Can you please go to the second last slide? I have one question. I can note it down.
So can I share it,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
do you want me to take it at the
yeah,
end?
it's fine. 1 to 2 questions we'll take, and the other question we'll take at the end.
1 second. I'll just share my screen. Which slide are you saying?
Last second.
Last second. You mean the recommendation one?
Yes, sir. Now continue doing like differential pricing for customers.
Okay. So what is that you want to ask?
I don't understood this. What is mean?
Okay. See, differential pricing for customers is basically now. Once the customer comes in, not everybody is of the same background. First you need to understand how the customer is, whether he can actually pay so much amount that you have quoted or not. For everybody you cannot quote the same amount. Some people might not be financially stable enough to actually give so much amount. So that is what I meant by differential pricing for customers. That means depending on the customer, you
Based on
suggest the
his
price. Yes. So it could be either based on his financial condition. It could be also based on which semester he is in. For example, a final year student, he would want to complete the course faster. So depending on that, you can either shorten the course for him, or either give him a crash course kind of a course. So that way you can do your pricing. That's
Okay.
the meaning of differential pricing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anjali,
Yes.
you said like differential pricing for customer. Don't you think like it's going to affect the overall economics of the pricing? Like, because let's say, and perception also. Let's say if somebody is getting some courses 2000 and the other guy is getting at 6000. So
I can see. So I completely agree. If they get to know about the pricing details, definitely it's going to be a issue. But then, as far currently, since the business is really not doing well, so they have to actually, for some people, they have to come down if they want that particular. If say for example, if a candidate is coming, he wants to learn 5 courses.
okay.
So they might really come down to a little cheaper price, because he's coming to learn bulk courses compared to a person who's coming only for one course.
Okay, one more thing, one suggestion actually, Anjali.
Yes, sure.
There are coupon codes. I think you might have used these on the online
Yes,
platforms.
yes, yes, yes.
So they can
So
have those kind of stuff
yeah,
also.
they have this referral discounts. They
Yeah,
have
so
referral discounts.
it's kind of introduces a kind of economic ceiling, so that you can capture the customers who don't want to pay that much but want to pay.
Yes, yes, they have this referral discounts which they give.
Then it's good.
Yeah, I just have one question. Firstly, I really enjoyed the presentation. So,
Thank you.
this is coming to something which is not in the presentation, but basically on how you approached the organization. So, personally, like to you, did you face any? Could you give us some advice as to how you can convince people and what type of organizations you can go to so
Sure.
that they're willing to give that data to us?
Sure, sure. See, firstly, I would, start with now near our homes or wherever we are. We go to certain shops very frequently. It could be, any fast food shop. It could be a chemist shop, or it could be a pani puri wala. There are some stores which we go really regularly and more often. So they will be familiar with our faces,
Hmm.
right? So we can first try to tap on and talk to them. Okay, so we are so and so, and go with your IITM ka full proof with your ID card and everything, and be fully prepared of what exactly you want and how you're going to help them. How I had actually approached, even they did not say yes to me at the first go.
Ah.
I had approached them in the month of Feb. They did not respond for 2 months. I also kept quiet because I knew it's a good institute. Why would they want me? So I
Hmm.
kept quiet. Then again in the month of May, I again contacted them, and luckily I had actually had a reference in between. So luckily with that, again I had told them that this is how I am planning to
Hmm.
go ahead with the project, and this is definitely going to be beneficial for your institute. So this is how be totally prepared of what you're going to do, how it's going to benefit them. If you go and tell them it's going to help you in this so and so way, then I am sure they'll be ready to help you. Firstly, tap to the stores that you are aware of and they know that you come here regularly. So I'm
Hmm.
sure that way you'll have a little personal touch also. So
Yeah.
that's one
Okay.
thing that you all can actually do.
Okay. Thank you. Because
And
there
then
were a few. Yeah.
secondly is reference. If in
Yes.
your family if you have someone who doing a business or something, so that's
Yeah.
the first thing actually.
Because actually, many of these small shops, even though they are very small, they were saying that they don't have any problems at all. And then we were like, okay, just give the data. Maybe we'll analyze and we can come up with better strategies.
See,
But then,
directly,
yeah.
I would
Hmm.
say directly don't say give me the data.
Hmm.
Nobody will give the data.
Hmm.
You first in the first meet you should never say that I want data. Don't
Hmm.
use the word data at all. First you just go to them, talk to them, just introduce yourself, say you're a student, and then you can actually ask about their business, how it's going. Try to observe, stay there for like half an hour or 1 hour, try to observe what's happening, and then you
Okay.
try to suggest them, yeah, this is happening, so is this affecting your business? So
Hmm.
try to give them suggestions then and there. Maybe do this for like couple of meets, okay? Like so not maybe one, twice, thrice, 4 to 5 times. Go and do this. Try
Hmm.
to observe. Try to give them some suggestions, and then after that, they'll only be like, "Huh, she's helping me out." So then you can say, "Okay, this so and so is my project," and then you can go ahead.
Yeah. So we can. Himanshu is there, right?
Yeah.
We'll
Yes,
take the
sir.
question. We'll take all the questions. No problem.
I have one
All the
question.
questions we'll take it.
It's, it's a basic
Yeah, we'll take
question. Is
question
that
after the session.
once we yes, sir, do I ask my question right now or
What we
later?
can do, we can take all the questions after the session. Let after the presentation, let Himanshu finish the presentation, and after then we can take a question. Just what you people will do, just write down the question with you, right? Write down the questions in the pen and, with pen and paper. And once the session is over, we can have a question answer session. We can just ask them how they have struggled and everything. We can ask them. It's not an issue. Okay. Okay, okay. Yeah, Arvind, Himanshu. Yeah, Himanshu, you
Yeah.
can come.
Uh, I hope my presentation is visible. Yes. Okay.
No,
So
I
I'll
think
just start.
Himanshu, yeah, yeah, it's visible now. Great, great.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just start by introducing myself. So I'm Himanshu Savargaonkar. So I finished my bachelor's in 2022 in electronics and communication, after which I worked in the automotive sector for a year. Currently, I am pursuing my master's in embedded systems in TU Delft in the Netherlands.
So here is my project. So it's titled Inventory Management and Forecasting System Using ML. Sorry for the very big title. So basically, what is inventory management, right? So if you have a production house, you're obviously going to need some components, and those components need to be stored in a more organized fashion. Otherwise, they're just going to end up looking like the image on the left, right? So my whole project's idea is to kind of take that mess of an inventory, apply some data science magic into it, and kind of make it into the organized system that you see. Talking a bit about the company that I worked with. So I had the pleasure of working with NASN, or NASN Medical Electronics Private Limited. So it's a company based in Pune. They manufacture medical equipment. So like from small SpO2 monitors to ECG machines up to like ventilators that are deployed in hospitals all across India. So they kind of work in the medical industry, and for them, being a production house, being quick and more efficient is very vital to them. Now, to kind of formally state the problem statement for this particular project, I kind of state it as to perform a statistical analysis on inventory data to observe patterns and trends present, and using machine learning to actually highlight these trends and make a prediction-based model. Using these trends to kind of forecast what I call an ideal stock quantity for each component that is currently being tracked in the inventory. Now, for the data that I received, so NASN currently has its own inventory management software that just keeps track of like present inventory, all the transactions that happened, and all of that. And so once you export the data, you kind of get this very huge Excel file. I have just taken like the first small snippet out of it, which you see for like every component, all the transaction, when it happened, what was the incoming quantity, outgoing quantity, and all of that. So, but like no human can understand that, obviously. So I did some pre-processing. I kind of compressed it into the first table that you see. So every component, I have given like the total number of transactions. So first off, I should mention that I got data for the past 3 years from the company. And so the total number of transactions in the past 3 years, when was the last transaction for that particular component, and the final quantity or the current quantity that is present in their inventory right now. Now, from this particular table, you can kind of construct your own metadata to kind of further purify or distill the data that is present. So I use the number of transactions as a metric, as well as the final stock quantity, to kind of divide them into classifications and see like how many items are there in like very low number of transactions, how many in very high number, what is the medium number of transactions, right? So this kind of gives you an idea of the spread of the in all the inventory data, because the sheer numbers here are too huge to kind of visualize, right? Now, actually, I'd like to draw your attention to the middle graph, and yeah, the middle column of the middle graph, sorry, middle row. So over here, you can actually see that the final quantity is 0, and the last transaction actually happened all the way back in 2021. Now we must, like, kind of logically thinking, we will be like, okay, then why are we tracking it? So we come to my first deliverable to the company, that was the dead and zero inventory, right? So dead inventory, to kind of define it, is basically inventory that is still present in your inventory stock, which is no longer being used. So on discussion with the company, we kind of said, okay, let's fix any component that has not been used in the past 2 years. Let's classify that as dead inventory. So I generated the dead inventory report, in which like 720 items are just dead inventory that are still currently present in the stock. Now, zero inventory is actually a subset of dead inventory. So now, if a particular inventory item has zero stock, like zero quantity, right, and has not been used in the past couple of years, that is how you classify zero inventory. So if you actually logically think about it, it technically doesn't even exist. It's just an entry in your inventory management system at this point, right? But this particular entry can be damaging. So when the company, for example, does some inventory statistical analysis, right? You take a mean, you take averages, or some kind of further statistics. These entries are going to be counted. even though they are not contributing to your company, they are just there as artifacts, they are still going to skew your final values. That is why it's important to just not only know, but kind of deal with these. So my first two deliverables were the dead inventory report and the zero inventory report. Now coming to the actual ML part, right? Because I said that this is an ML forecasting system. So the data that you see is basically a time series problem, right? Because I'm getting data based on the dates uh, for stock for all the components. So for a time series problem, you obviously use a regression. And in the regression, I chose the most basic algorithms. That's like linear, lasso, and ridge regression to kind of evaluate them and see what works best with the data that was provided to me. And sorry, for validation and scoring, I use the most standard regression metrics. I won't talk much about that because you guys know ML, I guess. Coming to the data pre-processing stage, as I mentioned in the previous slide, it was mainly about dealing with like zero and dead inventory. And additionally, to kind of deploy any ML, you guys know you need a lot of data. So kind of talking with the company, it was decided that we are going to drop the low and very low number of transactions. Talking back to the metadata that I created, right? So we kind of eliminated those as well. Now I performed the train test split. So I'll talk a bit about how I did this particular step in the next slide. Then it was just about naive implementations, then algorithm selection based on the validation and metric scores, and hyperparameter tuning for the best algorithm that I selected, and final result, obviously. Now, as I mentioned, for the train test split, normally what we kind of do is that if we have 100 data points and we are doing like a 70-30 split, we just kind of pick up randomly some 30 points from within the data. But this is a particular time series problem. So if you logically think, what I have done here is the first 70% of the data I have taken as my training set, and the last 30% of the data is my validation set. So I'm kind of saying that let's assume that I'm actually 1 year in the past. I don't know what's the data in the future. I only have the past 2 years of data, and I'm going to train my algorithm on that. And then I'm going to predict the next 1 year of data. And that is how I kind of did this, and I actually got pretty promising results from it. Now I have kind of averaged out the machine learning algorithm results over here. Just keep in mind these are like naive implementations. That's why the scores are kind of too small or too big in terms of errors and all. But just looking at them, we see like lasso regression is the best algorithm out of these three. And so I kind of chose that to proceed with hyperparameter tuning and actually building a solution. Right. So on the left, you can see that I have plotted like two graphs. So in that, you see the blue graph, which is like the actual stock, and the orange is my ideal prediction. Now you can see like in the top graph, there is like an upward trend, right? So for this particular stock item, you see an upward or an increase in demand in the future, right? But if you see at the lower graph, you can actually see a slight decrease in the usage of quantity over the years. So this kind of thing uh, is not very intuitive what to do with this data. But when you are actually planning your company policies, or if you want to make a new product, having this kind of data, knowing what items are present in inventory, what is the latest item, is very crucial. And this kind of stuff helps a lot for the company to actually plan their inventory purchases and how they actually manage the inventory. Now, coming to the right, now the people working in NASN, they are not data scientists, right? They have never even written a single line in Python. But all my code, everything I've done until now is purely Python. So they are never going to be able to use it. So I kind of whipped up a small GUI. It's rather basic, but functional, right? So they can simply like export data from their current inventory system, load it, and then I do all the pre-processing. You can just click the two buttons and generate the debt inventory and zero inventory reports, and also predict the ideal stock, as I demonstrated on the left. using selecting the particular ID and giving the input date. So that was kind of my final deliverable to the company. Coming to the recommendations and conclusions, so I came up with a few. The first and foremost was splitting the inventory into different categories. Now, when working with NASA, so the thing is, they were using the inventory management system, but it was purely to kind of keep track of their inventory. They never actually explored it a lot. So during the pre-processing itself, when I shared my findings with them, they were kind of astonished, like, oh, okay, this is how the the graph is. Oh, we have so many products, so many components in this particular range. We had no idea. So those were the kind of reactions. So my recommendation is to kind of keep periodically doing it, right? Because I only did it like now, but from a year, the data will obviously change, the trends and all will change. So doing this activity periodically will be very beneficial for them. Now, coming to the dead inventory and zero inventory. Now, I personally suggested completely getting rid of dead and zero inventory, but the CEO of the company kind of disagreed with me. Coming out of the recent chip shortage, he was very hesitant on getting rid of any of the inventory that he possessed. So we kind of came to the consensus that okay, maybe don't keep the dead inventory that is present in the current inventory pile, kind of segregate it, store it separately. Additionally, don't have any dead inventory and zero inventory entries in your current inventory tracker, right? Maybe export, make some Excels or the report that I shared, that can be used to kind of keep track of those. But please definitely remove them from the current inventory tracking system. Now to the ML model, the actual main core of the project. So the first was finding potential demand increase, right? So the company can plan according to that. They can set up their vendors according to the future predicted demand. The second was phasing out items with decreasing demands, right? So in electronic setting, you have like newer components coming out rather frequently. So what I actually suggested was like taking a look. There can be a case where like three independent components were used previously, which are currently being phased out. So a small redesign can actually optimize and replace those three components, but with a single component. So this will decrease the overhead for the from the inventory side of things and help like streamline the whole process a bit more. And lastly, it's to identify like understocking and overstocking. Now, this was a particular problem that hit the company pretty hard over the past few years. As I mentioned, we had, for people that actually don't know, COVID actually affected the chip market a lot. With there was like extreme shortages, and people were just bulk buying whenever they got the opportunity. So at the time when I actually received the data, there was many cases of just simply overstocking because just bulk buying of quantities, as well as understocking because there just weren't components available. So this particular project kind of helps you segregate those and actually see that as well. And lastly is to be more data aware. So actually, I'll like to mention about the dead inventory and zero inventory, right? So actually, when I shared these findings with them, they actually looked into their current inventory tracking system, and they found an add-on which actually helps them auto-generate these reports. Now, this would be a very useful tool for them where they don't even have to use the application that I shared. But this only happened because they actually look looked at the inventory management system, took interest in the data that is present there, rather than just looking at the numbers. So my final suggestion for them was to be in general data aware. Now, this is a machine learning project, and in today's landscape, a machine learning project can never be truly over. So one of the possible improvements was the using ARIMA model. So this is a more sophisticated way of using time series forecasting. And I actually did experiment with it a lot, but then I had some underfitting, overfitting issues. So at the end, I wasn't able to include it in my final project. And obviously, there are newer things coming every single day. So you have things like TimeNet, TimeGPT. Like these are research papers released like this year, in one in April, one in October. So kind of working on this, maybe using these models, will further optimize the result that is obtained from this particular project. So that's my project. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Himanshu, it was a good presentation and it was a very good project actually. Indeed, a lot of things you have done related to you have applied the ML, whatever you are learning in different courses, and it's pretty good. Yeah, yeah. So we can start the question and answer session. So Himanshu and Anjali both are with us, right? So if you have any questions, you can just proceed forward. Before that, I'll just try to ask them about the journey. So what exactly they are feeling like about the project? What are the pinpoints they are having with in the project journey? What are the situation when they are getting demotivated, and what are the things again let them motivated to complete the project? So these are the some of the questions. Maybe Himanshu and Anjali, you can just tell us regarding your project. So how you come up with this particular because we know like it is a bit tough. The project is a bit tough, but it is quite useful for you as well. Like when you are going for implication, nobody is going to ask you anything about what you have read in the book, what algorithm you have read. They will ask you where you want to apply, how you can apply it, right? So these are the things which we are trying to implement in the project, and it will be helpful for you all. So basically, Anjali and Himanshu, one by one, you can just tell us like what are the points where you are getting demotivated and how you are getting motivated, and what are the strategies you have followed, because these are the best capacity project. So what are the strategies you have followed to achieve this particular status? You can say best award for the project, right? So you can just discuss with the students so they can have understanding. Okay, these are the things they have to implement in the project as well. Yeah.
Anjali, ma'am, you want to go first?
You can start.
Okay. Right. So, talking a bit about the project. So, luckily, finding the company for me was pretty kind of easy because the Nassen's company is owned by a family friend. So, luckily, that's how I got in touch with them. But one key thing that I actually observed, especially in my case, was that Nasan was more than happy to provide me with data, but actually catching them because the people involved were like super busy with their own work. And what I was doing for them was obviously some extra work, right? Not immediately profitable to them. Kind of just getting appointments and just talking to them was a bit difficult at times. But kind of keeping an open communication. So I had a WhatsApp group formed with the people that are from NASAN and just keeping them updated, letting them know that you are still working on the project because with their daily work, they might even not remember that, okay, this particular project is going on at the site. So that was a thing for me. Additionally, I'm not sure if Aditya sir also knows this, but my final report for this particular project was rejected once. So that was a bit disheartening. But at the time, I thought I had done enough work. But looking back, it was definitely not enough work for the final report. So one suggestion would be definitely go through all the TA comments because those people actually know a lot more about their project or this particular project. So those comments will give you some really good guidelines or pinpoint key areas in your report to improve. So that was kind of my journey and my suggestions.
Yeah. 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 Great. Yeah, Anjali.
Yeah, so coming to my journey, this was not the first company which I had actually started my project with. Actually, I had started my
Yeah, I
project.
remember Anjali struggled a
Yes.
lot. Like initially, she had dropped a mail, said nobody is giving her data, what I can do.
Right,
After that,
right,
you see, like she got a Best Capstone Project Award. So
right.
maybe for useful, Anjali, you can just share your experience.
Sure,
Yeah, yeah.
sure, sir. Actually, I had started my project in Jan. Okay, so in Jan, actually, I had approached a chemist store. I had gone to a departmental store. I had asked, a fast food joint also. All of them, like one of you said that they said we don't have any problem. Okay, so I went to a mobile shop. So he luckily, he was like, okay, he was the person whom I used to go to regularly for my recharges, basically. So he knew me, meaning familiar face, because I used to always go to recharge through him only. So then I spoke to him. I didn't directly, my first thing, directly I did not say I'm so and so student, and I did not say anything of that. I just went there, I spoke to him how he is and understanding how his business is. As I had mentioned earlier, just try to study how I used to, like, every day when I used to go for a walk, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I used to, be there, and I used to try to observe what's happening over there. And then suddenly, then after, I think I did this for about 15 days. Okay, and then after 15 days, I told him, okay, I have so and so project, and I could be of some help to you. Definitely, this is what I have observed that's happening in this particular shop. And he was like, okay, fine, if you want to help, you help. He said that. But the thing where I had found out was, it was completely unorganized, meaning it is an unorganized sector wherein he does not have any records of, how much he's earning. There's no record, there's no bookkeeping, nothing. So I asked him one day, "Ki, how do you get to know how much profit you're making, or how's the business going on?" The answer which he gave me was, "It's all in my head." That's what he said. I was like, okay. So I found it really, fascinating to actually try to help him. And then I was like, okay, I actually even asked Aditya sir what I need to do, because at that point of time it was in the month of, I think, March, and there was hardly 1 month left for us to, submit our. And that time the entire rules were different at that particular time. In 1 month also you could actually complete your entire thing. So I had only 1 month left. So I had asked Aditya sir, sir, what do I do? He does not have any kind of data. So, but I genuinely wanted to help him. So then Sir said, okay, why don't you yourself, try to generate certain columns and make an Excel sheet or something. And he was actually uneducated. He didn't even know how to use Excel. So I had to do everything on paper, basically. And then I thought, okay, maybe, and I would be able to collect only 1 month data. Then I actually began thinking to myself, okay, is it really going to help me? Am I going to learn something out of it? Though I'm sure I'm going to help the other person, but am I going to actually learn something out of it just by giving him some columns and asking him to fill it up, or asking his customers to fill it up? Is that really going to be helpful, or is that going to be a BDM project from my end? That's when I decided, okay, should I really stick to this project, or should I search someone else? So then that's when I decided, okay, I gave him whatever details so I needed for my data collection. I asked him, okay, this is something that you need to maintain. And you ask your customers also certain feedbacks. And I gave him everything, and he was doing his work. In that meantime, I came across this institute. So I had approached them also. So as I had mentioned, 2 months they did not respond. Then luckily through some common contact, I got to know them, and then they got to know, okay, yeah, there is some, common reference. So again I approached them with my whatever idea I had, how I'm going to help them. And I had certain knowledge about the civil software, because I myself was a civil engineer, and I've been a civil student also. So I understood how things would work when a student comes in for, registering for a course. So I gave them initially my ideas. Say so and so is the mentality of the students. So if we can do it in certain way, I gave them some suggestion, and that's when the owner was like, "I'm in. You tell me what you need." In that also, for data collection was a big thing. He was not ready to share the entire data. I actually wanted to do even a quantitative analysis also, but he was not ready to share all that. He was very adamant, in sharing only that limited, whatever problem statement he has mentioned, only data related to that. So that was something which was a big challenge to convince him for giving me other revenue sort of data also, like, what are the various sales, what is the profit margin he's keeping. all that data he was not at all ready to share. So that was something that I had to actually cancel in my particular project, and not even add on to that, which I really wanted, because my project was completely only qualitative in nature. So that was one big challenge which I had to convince. I was not able to convince him for that particular part, so I had to just leave that aside. So this was the challenge that I had actually faced. But at the end, he was happy, and I'm still in touch with him. It's not that once if my project is over, tata bye bye. No, it's not like that. I'm still in touch with him, and I'm still following up with whatever suggestions I have given. Is it actually helping them or not? So that is one
Okay.
thing which actually is going to help you.
Yeah, it's great. So what about Himanshu? Are you in touch with the company people regarding the suggestions? Are they are following any suggestions, or what their input on the suggestion you have given?
Uh, Honestly, I haven't been as very proactively in touch with. But yes, so immediately after the project, we actually had a couple of meetings after we kind of they actually saw that okay, he's doing some work. These results we can actually use. So then they actually showed some interest, and we had some actual productive meetings. And in those, we actually, in my particular case, it wasn't actually about using what I gave them. It was more of a like a mentality change, or a kind of a click moment for them, saying that, oh, okay, we actually have a lot of this data, and this kid is able to actually do something productive with it. Maybe we should also look into what this is. So it was more of a that, rather than implementing all the suggestions that I provided for them.
Great. So I'll open the platform for the questions. Those who are having a question, just raise your hand, and just one by one you can ask the questions. Just make it a brief, like don't extend it too much, and just clarify your doubts, whatever you are having. So over to you all. Just raise your hand and just ask the questions from Anjali and Himanshu. Don't put the question in chat bot, because it is quite difficult. Like to whom you are addressing the question, it is then it is difficult. So just open your mic and just have a discussion with Himanshu and Anjali. Yeah. Yeah, you can proceed. Naren, you can proceed. You can proceed.
Yeah, yeah, both the presentations was very good. This question is for Imanshu.
Yes.
Imanshu, see, I'm also just starting to find out people and do the project. Uh, in the first part, so how was the problem statement diagnosed? Like how the owners have come up with certain problems, or how was that? I mean, can you express that
Uh,
procedure
yeah.
or feeling?
So in my case, it was luckily the company was open with like sharing data with me. So it was more of a conversation saying, okay, here is the data that we have. What can you do with it? Kind of thing. So they shared that okay, they have this particular inventory data which goes back to this. They were happy to share it with me. So they are like, okay, then what quantitative thing that I provide to the company? So based on that, I'm like, okay, maybe using some ML, maybe kind of refining this data may be useful for them. So that was kind of like my early hypothesis, which I worked on. I talked to them; they were kind of happy with it, and then we kind of progressed.